Your life at this very moment, every circumstance, every opportunity gained or lost, every repeated pattern that seems to wind back upon itself is not the product of chance, nor of some arbitrary fate playing dice with your existence. It is the outward picture of an inward program, a set of patterns impressed upon the most obedient and unfailing servant you possess, your subconscious mind. This programming operates without pause, quietly writing the script that your days will follow, regardless of the conscious desires you shout into the world. And here's the sobering truth. You do not get what you say you want. You get what your subconscious has been conditioned to expect. This is why so many find themselves puzzled when their fervent prayers, their meticulous plans, and their tireless efforts seem to bear little fruit, because all the while the inner roll of belief that runs beneath their awareness is playing the same old tune over and over again. Imagine for a moment your life as a player piano, that marvelous invention which produces music not by the performer's hands but by the perforated roll hidden inside it. From the outside, one might believe the melody is being chosen in real time, but in truth, every note, every chord, every pause is predetermined by the pattern on that roll. The keys you see moving are merely responding to the invisible design. So it is with your subconscious mind. The outer keys of your life, your relationships, finances, health, and opportunities are set in motion by the inner roll of your deeply held beliefs, and they will keep playing the same refrain until the roll itself is changed. The scriptures counsel us to guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. In the language of spiritual psychology, the heart is not merely the seat of emotion, but the repository of belief, the subconscious mind itself. To guard it means to watch over the content impressed upon it, to be vigilant about the thoughts, images, and feelings you allow to settle there. For just as a garden will faithfully produce whatever is sown into its soil, whether seeds of beauty or seeds of weeds, so too will your subconscious bring forth in your life whatever has been impressed upon it, whether in faith or in fear. If your inner role is one of limitation, nothing ever works out for me. I can't expect miracles. I'm just unlucky. Then that is the tune your life will play, no matter how hard you work or how earnestly you hope. The good news is that the role can be rewritten, the garden replanted. You can reprogram your subconscious for miracles, not by wrestling with it in the daylight of conscious effort, but by impressing upon it a new, living thought that it cannot refusion, that carries the authority of divine truth and the warmth of absolute belief. Once that thought is accepted, the entire melody of your life begins to change, and the same obedient servant that once played the dirge of lack will now produce the symphony of abundance, health, and unexpected blessings. Affirmation to carry forward. I now guard the inner roll of my mind, and I choose to impress it only with the music of divine possibility. Many people look at the lives of others and say, almost wistfully, they are lucky, miracles just seem to happen for them. They imagine that such blessings are granted to a chosen few, perhaps those born under a fortunate star or favored in some mysterious way by God. Yet this belief in a kind of spiritual lottery is itself one of the greatest barriers to experiencing the miraculous. It fosters passivity, envy, and resignation, keeping the mind trapped in the idea that what happens to us is entirely outside our control. But the truth, which is as old as the scriptures and as constant as the sunrise, is that miracles are not random acts of favoritism. They are the lawful and inevitable results of inner alignment with divine truth. The Apostle Peter declared with crystal clarity, God is no respecter of persons. These are not idle words. They mean that the infinite does not hand out blessings based on whim or personal preference. The law of mind and spirit operates with absolute impartiality, responding to belief the way fertile soil responds to a seed without favoritism, without prejudice, without hesitation. The soil does not say, "I will grow wheat for one farmer and thorns for another." It will grow whatever is planted, and it will grow it faithfully. In the same way, the subconscious will bring forth whatever you impress upon it with feeling and persistence, whether that be the seed of a miracle or the seed of continued struggle. So why does it seem that miracles visit some lives and bypass others? The answer lies in the inner posture of belief. Those who appear lucky are often, knowingly or unknowingly, holding a mental climate that welcomes the miraculous. They expect good, they imagine it vividly, they speak as though it is already on its way. And because their inner state is aligned with that expectation, their subconscious mind, acting in concert with infinite intelligence, sets in motion the right people, opportunities, and conditions to make it so. To the outside observer, it appears as luck or divine favoritism. To the one who understands the law, it is simply the inevitable fruit of aligned belief. When you accept this truth, a tremendous weight lifts from your shoulders. You no longer see yourself as excluded from the flow of divine favor, for you recognize that the same law that produces miracles for another will produce them for you when you meet its conditions. There is no locked gate, no secret club, no spiritual hierarchy. There is only the law, and it works for all who work with it. This understanding removes the poison of envy and replaces it with the empowerment of personal responsibility. You stop asking, "Why not me?" and begin affirming, "Why not now?" From this place of understanding, the one thought that reprograms your subconscious for miracles can be received not as a desperate plea, but as a confident instruction. You speak it into the fertile soil of your inner mind with the certainty that it will germinate, for the law cannot do otherwise. The subconscious will obey, the conditions will align, and the miracle will unfold not because you are favored above others, but because you have chosen to live in harmony with the way things truly work. Affirmation to carry forward. God is no respecter of persons, and the law of divine mind works for me as surely as it works for anyone. If there is one silent saboteur that robs more men and women of their miracles than any other, it is doubt, that quiet, persistent voice that whispers in the back of your mind, "What if it doesn't happen? What if this is just wishful thinking? What if I'm fooling myself?" Doubt is the enemy within, and it operates like a short circuit in an otherwise perfectly wired system. You may have the switch of faith turned on, the current of divine power ready to flow, but if doubt creates a break in the line, the energy cannot reach its destination. The light of your miracle flickers and goes dark, not because the source has failed, but because the circuit of belief has been interrupted. Think of it in practical terms. You can have a lamp with a bright bulb connected to an abundant power supply and positioned exactly where you need it, but if there is a frayed wire hidden within the cord, the connection will be unreliable at best and non-existent at worst. Doubt is that frayed wire in the cord of faith. On the surface, you may speak affirmations, visualize your desired outcome, and even feel moments of hope, but if underneath those actions lies an undercurrent of skepticism, the subconscious mind receives a mixed message. One moment, it is instructed to create. The next, it is instructed to hesitate, to hold back, to wait for proof before acting. And because the subconscious is obedient to both, it does neither fully. It hovers in a limbo of partial results and delayed manifestations. The tragedy is that doubt often feels rational. It dresses itself in the clothing of caution and calls itself being realistic. It tells you not to get your hopes up, to prepare for disappointment, to expect less so you will not be hurt. But this protection is a slow poison, for it trains your subconscious to keep you within the narrow limits of what it already knows, never venturing into the boundless territory of the miraculous. To the doubting mind, miracles seem unsafe precisely because they require stepping beyond the familiar. The solution is not to wage war on doubt with sheer willpower, but to replace it with a truth so strong, so luminous, that there is no room for the shadow. When you give your subconscious a single, clear, and life-giving thought, one that harmonizes perfectly with divine law, when you repeat it with feeling until it becomes the dominant note in your mental symphony, doubt is gradually starved of its power. It fades not because you forced it out, but because your inner focus has been so filled with faith that there is simply no place left for hesitation. In this way, the one thought that reprograms your subconscious for miracles functions as both seed and shield. It plants the vision of what you desire and guards it from the corrosive influence of uncertainty. And as the seed grows, producing its first signs of life, the old doubts lose their credibility entirely. You begin to see that what you once feared was impossible is already taking form, and you realize that the so-called enemy within was never more than a voice without authority. Silence the moment you stop giving it your attention. Affirmation to carry forward: my faith is whole, my belief is unbroken, and the power of God flows through me without interruption. Let me bring this truth into sharper focus with a story that is played out in countless variations in the lives of those who sincerely pray for change yet unknowingly resist the very answer they seek. There was a man, let us call him Samuel, who longed for a breakthrough in his business. He had struggled for years, moving from one modest success to another, but the great leap he envisioned never came. When we first spoke, he told me of his fervent prayers, his disciplined affirmations, and his commitment to visualizing prosperity. On the surface, he seemed to be doing everything right. But as I listened, I noticed a subtle tremor in his tone. When he spoke of the future, a flicker of hesitation in his voice. When he said, "I believe it will happen," I asked him what came to mind in the quiet moments after his prayers. When the day's distractions had faded, he paused and admitted that in those still times he often found himself wondering, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wasting my time? What if the door I'm knocking on is never going to open? Here was the hidden contradiction. By day he planted seeds of faith, but by night he scattered seeds of doubt into the same soil. His subconscious, ever obedient, tried to grow both at once, producing a tangled field where neither crop could fully mature. I explained to him that this was like a farmer who sows wheat in the morning and then, out of habit or fear, sows thistles in the evening. Both seeds are accepted by the earth without prejudice. Both will grow if given the chance. The subconscious works in exactly the same way. It will act upon whatever is impressed upon it most frequently and most vividly, whether that be the image of a miracle or the expectation of disappointment. The problem is not that Samuel lacked faith entirely, but that his faith was diluted by a steady drip of doubt. To break this cycle, I gave him a simple but profound assignment: to adopt a single thought that would not only affirm his desired outcome but also dissolve the power of doubt before it could take root. I instructed him to speak this thought in a slow, measured whisper each night before sleep, allowing it to be the final impression his subconscious received before drifting into the fertile darkness of rest. This thought, I told him, was to be treated not as a request but as a decree, a statement of spiritual fact, uttered with the quiet authority of one who knows the law will fulfill it. At first, he found the practice almost too simple, but within a week he noticed a shift not in his bank account but in himself. The anxious undercurrent began to fade. The questions that once nibbled at the edges of his belief lost their sharpness. By the third week, opportunities began to appear, seemingly out of nowhere. A client from years past called with a lucrative proposal. A chance meeting led to a new partnership, and within 3 months, the breakthrough he had prayed for was no longer a distant hope, but a living reality. Samuel's story is a living parable of the truth that miracles do not happen when we scatter our attention between belief and doubt. They happen when we impress a single unbroken instruction upon the subconscious and allow it to work in harmony with infinite intelligence. The one thought is the key, not because it is magic in itself, but because it becomes the dominant seed in the garden of the mind, and the garden can only grow what is planted there most consistently. Affirmation to carry forward. I give my subconscious a single clear instruction, and it brings it to pass in perfect order. Before we can introduce this one transformative thought into the deep soil of the subconscious, we must first prepare that soil, clear it of the weeds of worry, the stones of resentment, and the hardened crust of habitual thinking that prevents new seeds from taking root. Just as no wise farmer would scatter precious grain upon a neglected field choked with last season's remnants, so too must you make room in your inner garden for the seed of the miraculous. This preparation is not complicated, but it is deliberate, for it signals to your subconscious that a new chapter is beginning and that the old patterns no longer have authority over you. I teach a simple yet powerful method to accomplish this: the evening and morning release ritual. In the evening, before you retire for the night, take a few quiet minutes with a notebook or even a single sheet of paper. Write down every concern, every unresolved matter, every lingering question that has occupied your mind during the day. Do not analyze or judge these thoughts simply. Transfer them from the cluttered desk of your mind onto the page, as though you were handing a bundle of papers to a trusted assistant who will see them sorted in due time. Once the list is complete, read it silently and then declare aloud, "These are now released into the hands of infinite intelligence. I am free to rest in peace." This act is not symbolic, only it communicates to your subconscious that the mental ground is now clear for the planting of your chosen thought. In the morning, upon waking, perform the second half of the ritual. Before you reach for your phone, before the world's demands crowd into your awareness, close your eyes and breathe deeply 3 times. Then silently affirm, "This is a fresh day, and my mind is a fertile field for divine ideas." In doing this, you start the day by reaffirming your openness to new impressions, rather than slipping back into the grooves of yesterday's thinking. You are telling the subconscious, "The field is prepared, and I am ready to receive." Over time, this ritual becomes a kind of inner housekeeping, ensuring that the fertile ground of your mind is not overrun with last season's debris. The subconscious responds to such order and clarity with remarkable swiftness, for it prefers a single, well-defined instruction to 1,000 conflicting commands. And when the one thought for miracles is planted into this prepared soil, it finds no obstacle to its growth, no choking weeds of fear, no stones of skepticism, no hard crust of cynicism. It sinks deep, takes root, and begins at once to draw upon the infinite resources of life to bring itself into expression. In this way, you approach the practice of reprogramming your subconscious, not as a frantic struggle against the old, but as a peaceful making ready for the new. You are like a gardener who, knowing the power of the seed, tends first to the soil, trusting that the life within the seed will do the rest. And indeed, when the soil is ready, the miracle seed does not merely grow, it flourishes. Affirmation to carry forward. I clear the soil of my mind, and the seed of divine thought takes root without hindrance. The law of belief is not a poetic metaphor nor a vague spiritual notion. It is the precise and unfailing mechanism by which your inner convictions become the outer experiences of your life. When Jesus said, "It is done unto you as you believe," he was not speaking in riddles. He was revealing the operative principle of all manifestation, the central axis around which the wheel of life turns. This law is as constant as gravity, as impartial as the sunrise. It takes no account of whether your belief is in health or sickness, abundance or lack, joy or sorrow. It will, without hesitation, reproduce, inform, whatever belief is most firmly impressed upon the subconscious mind. To understand this is to step into a realm of profound responsibility and immense freedom. It means that you are never a victim of circumstances except insofar as you believe yourself to be. It means that what you call reality is not a fixed landscape imposed upon you by forces beyond your control, but a moving picture shaped from moment to moment by the images you hold in your heart. The subconscious is the silent builder, the tireless artisan, working ceaselessly in the background to translate your dominant beliefs into the structures of your life. And because it is impartial, it will build with whatever materials you hand it, whether they be the gold of faith or the rusted iron of fear. Consider the farmer who plants seeds in the earth. The soil does not ask whether the seed is of wheat or of thistle. It will nourish both with equal diligence. The law of belief functions in exactly the same way. Your inner soil will grow the seed of abundance just as faithfully as it will grow the seed of lack. It makes no moral judgment, no qualitative distinction. The determining factor is not the worthiness of the seed, but the constancy of its planting and the depth of its rooting. If, day after day, you nourish the belief that you are limited, that miracles are rare or reserved for others, your subconscious will accept these convictions and bring them forth in experience. Conversely, if you feed it with the unwavering belief that divine power is active in you now, that miracles are the natural outpouring of God's presence in your life, the same law will just as faithfully produce results that match that expectation. This is why the one thought we will soon plant is so potent. It is designed to satisfy the conditions of the law of belief. It is simple enough to be remembered, specific enough to be impressed, and resonant enough with divine truth to bypass the resistance of the conscious mind. Repeated in the right state, it becomes the dominant impression, the seed that the subconscious tends with tireless devotion. And as with any law, once the conditions are met, the result is inevitable. Just as no farmer doubts that a planted seed will sprout when given the right care, so too will you come to rest in the certainty that your belief, once impressed, must bear fruit. The law of belief does not operate sporadically, nor does it pause, because the outer evidence is not yet visible. The seed germinates in silence, and the first green shoot often appears without warning. But when you understand that the law is always working, you cease to fret over the timing and instead devote your energy to sustaining the belief itself. You know that the law cannot fail, because it is the very nature of the creative process by which the infinite becomes the visible. Affirmation to carry forward. It is done unto me as I believe, and I now choose to believe in the miracle working power of God within me. Beneath the surface of your conscious awareness lies a vast, tireless, and utterly obedient servant, the subconscious mind, which I often call the miracle servant of your life. It is the hidden workshop where every invisible plan is shaped into visible reality, where the unformed substance of possibility is given structure, form, and expression. The conscious mind is the architect, sketching the blueprint through thought, imagination, and intention. The subconscious is the master builder, following every detail with unwavering precision. Whether the design leads to a palace of joy or a prison of limitation. This is why the scriptures tell us, the kingdom of God is within you. That kingdom is not a distant realm, but the infinite storehouse of creative power waiting to be directed by the impressions you place upon it. Your subconscious does not debate with you, nor does it argue the merits of your desires. It accepts, without question, whatever it is fed with enough repetition and emotional intensity. Like the soil that makes no moral judgment about the seed, it will nurture both the rose and the thorn, the wheat and the weed. If you fill it with images of failure, fear, and lack, it will build your life to reflect those conditions, believing that is your true wish. If you fill it with the vision of miracles, the certainty of divine favor, and the calm assurance that God's power is flowing through you now, it will set all of its hidden forces to work to bring that vision into being. I often liken the subconscious to a great ship at sea, with your conscious mind as the captain and your words and thoughts as the orders given from the bridge. The crew below deck, your subconscious, cannot see the horizon, cannot judge the weather, and cannot choose its own course. It relies entirely on the captain's commands. If the captain says, "Sail toward the harbor of abundance," the crew will adjust the sails, the rudder, and every instrument to make it so. If the captain mutters, "We're bound for the reefs of failure," the crew will obey that order just as faithfully, even if it means running the ship aground. This is why it is imperative that you, as the captain, speak only those commands that lead to the destination you truly desire. When you understand the subconscious as your miracle servant, you begin to treat your thoughts as sacred directives, not idle chatter. You no longer toss out casual statements like, "I can't," or "It's hopeless," without realizing that each is an instruction being faithfully recorded and executed below deck. Instead, you speak as one who knows that every word is a seed, every image a map, every feeling a signal to the divine machinery working within you. And when the one thought we are preparing to plant is impressed upon this servant with conviction, you can rest in the knowledge that the crew has received its orders and will carry them out with perfect diligence. This is not wishful thinking, it is the law of mind in action. The subconscious, linked to the infinite intelligence that animates all life, has access to resources, ideas, and connections far beyond your conscious comprehension. When it is given a clear, consistent instruction, it will quietly orchestrate the people, circumstances, and conditions needed to fulfill it. You may think the result has come by chance, but in truth, it is the precise execution of an order you placed long before. The kingdom within you is never idle, it is only ever awaiting your next command. Affirmation to carry forward. My subconscious is my faithful servant, building my life according to the miracle seed I now plant. Every thought you hold with conviction is more than a fleeting wisp of mental vapor. It is a creative command issued to the deepest part of your being, a seed placed in the invisible soil from which your visible world grows. Thoughts, especially those repeated with emotion, are living forces. They are clothed in feeling, wrapped in imagery, and carried to the subconscious where they take root, and by the unalterable law of mind, must bring forth after their kind. This is the true meaning of the ancient declaration. The Word became flesh. Words, whether spoken aloud or silently impressed, are not idle sounds. They are the carriers of mental pictures and emotional tones that the subconscious accepts as blueprints to be built into the substance of your life. When you whisper a thought into the quietness before sleep, you are speaking into the most receptive chamber of your mind. The conscious guard grows drowsy, the gate to the subconscious swings open, and the suggestion enters unhindered. If that thought is one of divine truth, wrapped in the warmth of gratitude or certainty, it is like a seed falling upon fertile ground in the perfect season. The subconscious will embrace it, nurture it, and begin the unseen work of making it real. But if the thought is one of worry, fear, or limitation, it will be planted just as surely, and the same creative process will bring it forth in your experience. This is why the quality and nature of your thoughts, particularly those you impress most often, are of such immense importance. I urge you to think of each deliberate thought as a command you are placing into the great engine room of your life. When the captain on the bridge says, "Full speed ahead toward the harbor of healing," the crew below deck sets the machinery in motion to make it so. But if in the next breath the captain shouts, "Stop! Turn toward the storm of failure," the crew will obey that, tour resulting in a voyage that circles aimlessly, never reaching its destination. Your role then is to give one clear, consistent command, and to hold to it with such steadiness that the subconscious has no conflicting orders to follow. This is why the one thought we will soon reveal holds such transformative power. It is not a random affirmation plucked from the air. It is a spiritual decree carefully chosen to harmonize with divine law and to bypass the resistance of the conscious mind. When spoken with the authority of faith, it becomes more than words. It becomes a living seed charged with the creative life of God. Each repetition drives the roots deeper, strengthens the stem, and prepares the blossom to appear in your world. Over time, the repetition of this thought reshapes the very landscape of your inner mind, and because the outer world is but the reflection of the inner, your circumstances begin to align with the truth you have planted. Never underestimate the cumulative power of repeated thoughts. Just as a drop of water falling on stone will eventually carve a channel, so will a thought, repeated with feeling, carve a groove in the subconscious until it becomes the dominant track along which all your energy flows. Once that track is laid, the manifestation of its content is not merely possible, it is inevitable. Your work, therefore, is to choose the thought with care, plant it with intention, and water it with faith until it becomes the most natural thing in the world for you to think and feel. Affirmation to carry forward. Every thought I impress with feeling is a command to my subconscious, and I now choose only thoughts that create miracles. Now we come to the threshold moment, the unveiling of what I call the God thought, the single mental seed that, when planted in the fertile ground of your subconscious and nourished with unwavering faith, has the power to reprogram your entire inner world for the miraculous. This thought is not a clever phrase or a motivational slogan. It is a living decree drawn from the eternal principles of divine law. It contains within it the essence of spiritual truth, the vibration of wholeness, and the command of authority that the subconscious cannot help but obey. It is the key that unlocks the inner vault, where infinite intelligence has stored every blessing you could ever need, waiting only for your acceptance to be made manifest. The God thought is this: God's miracle, working power, is flowing through me now. Let us examine why these words are so potent. First, they name the source God's miracle working power, and in doing so, they immediately lift the mind above the narrow confines of human limitation. You are not relying on your own strength, cleverness, or resources. You are drawing upon the boundless energy of the infinite, which is the same power that hung the stars in their courses, carved the channels for the rivers, and gave life to all creation. This acknowledgement alone dissolves the small self's tendency to doubt, for it is no longer you attempting to force a result, it is God's own power moving in and through you. Next, the phrase declares movement and immediacy flowing. This is not a future hope to be fulfilled someday, it is a present reality occurring now. The subconscious lives entirely in the present tense. It has no concept of later. When you say is flowing, you tell the inner mind that the current of divine power is active this very moment, coursing through every level of your being. The more you speak it, the more your subconscious accepts it as the constant state of affairs, and it begins to adjust your thoughts, feelings, and even your bodily processes to reflect that truth. Finally, the word through is vital, for it frames you not as a passive recipient, but as a living channel through which the miracle-working power of God can express itself. This power is not merely around you or toward you, it is through you, meaning it is integrated into your very life force, touching every cell, every thought, every circumstance you encounter. You become a conduit for miracles, and because a conduit must always remain open for the flow to continue, this thought naturally conditions you to expect and allow greater and greater demonstrations of good. When you speak the God thought, God's miracle working power is flowing through me now. Do not rush it. Whisper it slowly, letting each word settle into you like warm rain into thirsty soil. Feel the reality of it as though you were already experiencing the full expression of that power. Imagine it as a golden river moving through your mind and body, sweeping away all that is unlike itself, leaving only health, abundance, peace, and joy in its wake. The subconscious will receive this as a direct and unambiguous instruction, and because it is linked to the infinite, it will begin to orchestrate the people, opportunities, and conditions necessary for the miracle to appear. This is the one thought you will return to again and again, morning and night, until it becomes not merely a phrase you speak, but the very atmosphere you live in. In time, you will find yourself thinking it without effort, as naturally as you breathe, and when that happens, you will know that your subconscious has been fully reprogrammed to operate from the reality of miracles as its default setting. Affirmation to carry forward. God's miracle working power is flowing through me now, and it manifests as blessings without limit. A thought, however perfectly worded, does not reach the full measure of its power until it is charged with emotion. The subconscious mind is moved far more by feeling than by logic, for feeling is the language it understands most deeply. You may repeat the God thought. God's miracle working power is flowing through me now 100 times in a mechanical way, and see little change. But if you speak it once while fully feeling the joy, relief, and gratitude of its truth, that single impression can outweigh all the lifeless repetitions of the past. Emotion is the electric current that animates the seed of thought, giving it the vitality to grow swiftly and surely in the soil of the subconscious. Think of your subconscious as a vast, dark chamber where seeds are planted. A thought without feeling is like a seed tossed on the floor. There is no moisture, no warmth, no life to quicken it. But when you saturate that thought with genuine emotion, it is as though you have placed the seed into rich earth, watered it, and turned it toward the sunlight. The more intense and genuine the feeling, the more rapidly the subconscious accepts the suggestion and begins its work of bringing it into form. This is why those rare moments when you are overcome with gratitude, awe, or deep love seem to produce changes in your life almost instantly, because in those moments you have given the subconscious a clear, unresisted, and emotionally charged command. To emotionally charge the God thought, close your eyes and recall a time when you felt profoundly blessed, when something happened that filled you with wonder, joy, or a sense of divine nearness. Relive that moment in as much detail as you can. The sights, the sounds, the scents, the very air around you. Let the memory stir the same feelings within you now. Once the emotion has risen, speak the God thought softly. God's miracle working power is flowing through me now. As you say it, imagine that you are directing that very feeling into the words, like a musician pouring his heart into a single note. You may also picture the God thought as a brilliant spark, glowing brighter each time it is spoken with feeling. See it expanding within you, filling your chest with warmth, your mind with light, and your entire being with the sense that something magnificent is unfolding even now. This is not make-believe. It is the deliberate shaping of your inner state to match the reality you wish to experience. And because the subconscious must express what is impressed upon it, the outer conditions of your life will gradually conform to this inner climate of expectancy and joy. Over time, as you continue to pair the God thought with strong emotion, the feeling will become automatic. You will find that even a whisper of the phrase brings a rush of assurance and peace, because your subconscious has been conditioned to respond instantly to its meaning. This is when you will know that the seed is firmly planted, that the soil is warm and moist, and that the miracle is already germinating in the hidden places of your life. From this point forward, your work is simply to keep the feeling alive until the visible harvest appears, and when it does, You will recognize it as the natural and inevitable result of the thought you charge with the electricity of faith. Affirmation to carry forward. I speak my God, thought with the joy and gratitude of one whose miracle is already here, and my subconscious accepts it now. Breath is more than the mechanical act of drawing in air and expelling it. It is the most ancient and immediate link between your body, your mind, and the infinite life that sustains you. Every tradition, from the mystics of the East to the psalmists of Israel, has recognized breath as the carrier of spirit, the bridge between the unseen and the seen. When you consciously merge the God thought, God's miracle working power is flowing through me now with the rhythm of your breath. You are no longer merely thinking an idea, you are embodying it. The thought is no longer confined to the mind. It flows with the very life force moving through your bloodstream, reaching every cell as naturally as oxygen itself. Begin by sitting or lying comfortably, closing your eyes and turning your attention inward. Take a slow, deep inhalation through your nose, allowing your abdomen to expand and your chest to rise in a gentle wave. As you inhale, silently or softly, speak the first half of the God thought, God's miracle, working power. Hold the breath for a moment, not in tension, but in quiet reverence, feeling as though you are receiving a sacred infusion from the infinite. Then, as you exhale slowly through the mouth, complete the phrase, His flowing through me now. Feel the release in your body as you breathe out, as if every obstacle, fear, or resistance is leaving you with that breath. This pattern does more than help you focus. It creates a physical rhythm that reinforces the mental and spiritual impression. Inhaling becomes the act of receiving, drawing in the miracle working life of God, while exhaling becomes the act of releasing all that is unlike it. Over time, your body begins to associate each repetition of the God thought with a deep sense of calm, openness, and readiness to receive. You condition not only your mind but also your nervous system to enter a state of receptivity each time you speak the words. Imagine as you breathe that the miracle working power is a luminous golden light entering with every inhalation. See it descending into your lungs, spreading through your bloodstream, and bathing every cell in radiance. As you exhale, imagine this light expanding outward, flowing through your entire being and even beyond your body, blessing every aspect of your life, your relationships, your work, your health, your environment. Each breath thus becomes both an act of personal healing and an offering to the world, for what overflows from you touches everything you encounter. The beauty of this breath and thought union is its portability. You can practice it in bed, before sleep, in the quiet of the morning, before rising, or even in the midst of your day when you need to reconnect with the current of divine power. In moments of stress, 2 or 3 mindful breaths with the God thought can restore your composure and re-anchor you in the reality of God's presence. And as this becomes second nature, you will find that your breathing itself without conscious effort often falls into the rhythm of the affirmation, as though your very body has learned to pray without ceasing. Affirmation to carry forward. With every breath I receive God's miracle, working power, and with every exhalation I let it flow freely through me now. Now we anchor the God thought into the subconscious with a visualization so vivid, so saturated with sensory detail that your inner mind cannot distinguish it from actual experience. This is the visualization Ancora mental picture that gives form, color, movement, and emotion to the miracle you are calling forth, so that each time you repeat, God's miracle working power is flowing through me now, the subconscious is not only hearing the words, but seeing and feeling their reality. The subconscious responds with astonishing speed to images imbued with feeling, for to it, an imagined scene experienced with full emotional engagement is as real as one observed with the physical senses. To create this anchor, Choose a single radiant scene that represents your miracle as complete. If your desire is for physical healing, see yourself moving through life with ease and strength, perhaps walking briskly along a sunlit path, breathing deeply, and feeling every muscle supple and responsive. If your miracle is financial abundance, picture yourself joyfully opening a letter or an email confirming the arrival of unexpected funds, or see yourself standing in the midst of your thriving business, greeting clients with confidence and gratitude. Whatever the scene, it must feel deeply personal and emotionally satisfying to you. Once chosen, close your eyes and step into this mental picture as though it were happening now. See the colors vividly, as if painted by a master's hand. Hear the sounds, the rustle of leaves, the laughter of loved ones, the hum of conversation, the ring of a phone delivering good news. Feel the textures, the warmth of the sun on your face, the cool of a breeze on your skin, the firm handshake of someone congratulating you. Let your imagination be so thorough that every sense is engaged, for each sensory detail adds weight and solidity to the image in the subconscious. Now, as you live in this scene, begin to weave in the God thought. As you inhale, think or whisper, God's miracle working power, and as you exhale, is flowing through me now. Imagine that with each inhalation, more of this divine current fills the picture, making the colors brighter, the sounds clearer, the feelings more intense. With each exhalation, the scene becomes even more real, until it is no longer something you are imagining, it is something you are remembering as though it has already happened. The more you repeat this practice, the stronger the anchor becomes. Eventually, the mere thought of your chosen scene will trigger the full sensory experience, and the subconscious will take it as a settled fact. Because the subconscious must express what it accepts as true, it will work tirelessly to adjust your body, your circumstances, and your interactions, so that the outer world matches the inner image. This is not forced effort. It is the natural, effortless alignment of the invisible and the visible, the cause and its effect. By pairing the God thought with a visualization anchor, you give the subconscious a blueprint so complete that it can no more fail to build it than an architect could fail to construct a house from a detailed plan. The thought provides the command. The image provides the form. Together, they create a magnetic pull that draws the miracle from the unseen into your tangible experience. Affirmation to carry forward. I see and feel my miracle as complete, and my subconscious now brings it forth in perfect order. Let us pause to witness how swiftly and decisively this process can work when the God thought is received without resistance. A woman I once counseled, let us call her Clara, had carried the weight of a long-standing condition that no treatment, no regimen, no expert opinion seemed able to relieve. Her days were a slow procession of managing symptoms, her nights broken by restless sleep and a persistent dread that life would always be this way. Yet she retained, somewhere beneath the weariness, a quiet hunger for change, a sense that there was more for her than this. When she heard me speak the words, God's miracle, working power is flowing through me now, something stirred in her, an almost imperceptible warmth, as if the phrase had found its home in a deep, unlit chamber of her mind. We began the practice simply. Each night she would lie in bed with the lights low, place a hand gently over her heart, and breathe in the God thought on the inhale, release it on the exhale. At first, she felt awkward, as though she were only pretending. But she persisted, not with strain, but with a quiet trust that something unseen was at work. By the end of the first week, her sleep had grown deeper. By the second, she found herself waking with a lightness she could not explain, a subtle shift, as though some inner weight had been lifted. In the third week, she began to pair the God thought with a vivid visualization, seeing herself walking through her garden at dawn, bending to touch the petals of flowers, feeling the earth steady beneath her feet. In this vision, Her body moved easily, her breath was strong and free, her steps unhurried and sure. The more she entered this scene, the more real it became to her inner senses, until it began to feel less like a hope and more like a memory returning to her. Then, one morning, not months later, but only weeks into the practice, woke to find that the familiar discomfort was simply absent. There was no fanfare, no lightning bolt of change, only the quiet realization that she had moved through the day without the old limitations. Days turned into weeks, and the improvement held. When I asked her what she thought had happened, she said, "It's as if my body finally remembered how to be well, and it's because I believed it before I saw it." Clara's story is not an outlier. It is an illustration of the law at work. When a single clear, emotionally charged thought is impressed upon the subconscious and paired with an image that embodies its truth, the inner mind will enlist every faculty: cellular repair, immune function, creative problem solving, and even the orchestration of external circumstances to bring that thought into full expression. The change may arrive gradually or suddenly, but arrive it must, for the law of mind cannot deny its own nature. What made the difference for Clara was not the novelty of the phrase or the complexity of the method. It was the consistency of planting the same seed night after night without digging it up to see if it had sprouted. Her faith was not a fevered striving, but a calm expectancy, and in that expectancy the miracle unfolded as naturally as the dawn follows the night. Affirmation to carry forward. I persist with my God. Thought until my whole being accepts it, and the miracle manifests without effort. To give the God thought its fullest opportunity to work, it must be given pride of place at both ends of your day, what I call the miracle morning and night routine. These two sacred windows, the moments just after waking and just before sleep, are the times when your subconscious is most malleable, most open to suggestion, and most eager to receive the impressions you offer it. In the morning, the conscious mind has not yet been cluttered with the demands and distractions of the day. In the evening, it is drowsy and less resistant, ready to pass your final thoughts into the deep reservoir where they will be processed and acted upon. By making the God thought the bookends of your day, you create a rhythm of suggestion that builds momentum with each passing cycle. In the morning, before you even rise from bed, resist the impulse to reach for your phone, to check messages, or to run through the day's obligations. Instead, turn inward. Take a deep, slow breath, and as you inhale, think or softly speak God's miracle working power. As you exhale, complete it. It's flowing through me now. Feel the words settling into you, not as a wish, but as the simple truth of your current state. Let this set the tone for your entire day. The first thought you impress upon your mind becomes the lens through which all subsequent events are filtered. When your lens is the certainty of divine power flowing through you, you will find yourself moving through the day with greater confidence, ease, and openness to unexpected blessings. In the evening, as the day winds down, the ritual is even more important. Before you surrender to sleep, take a few minutes in a quiet space, whether lying in bed or sitting in a comfortable chair, and repeat the God thought in unhurried whispers. If you can, pair it with the visualization anchor you have chosen, seeing and feeling your miracle as already complete. The goal is to make the God thought the final impression your subconscious receives before you drift into unconsciousness, for during the hours of sleep, the subconscious will work tirelessly to weave that thought into the tapestry of your inner reality. You may also choose to keep a small journal beside your bed in which each night you write the God thought in your own hand. Writing engages a different channel of mind-body connection, reinforcing the suggestion through the act of movement and visual recognition. Some find that reading over a page filled with their own handwriting, each line a repetition of God's miracle working power is flowing through me now, deepens the feeling of certainty and seals it into the mind more firmly. By faithfully practicing this morning and night routine, you train your subconscious to accept the God thought not as an occasional guest, but as a permanent resident. In time, it becomes the undercurrent of your thinking, humming quietly beneath every task and conversation, ready to rise into conscious awareness at the slightest invitation. This constancy is what turns an affirmation into a living law in your life. Affirmation to carry forward. From my first waking breath to my final thought before sleep, I affirm the flow of God's miracle, working power through me now. While the morning and night rituals serve as the anchor points for your practice, the real magic accelerates when you begin integrating what I call micro-miracle thoughts throughout the day. These are short, spontaneous repetitions of the God thought. God's miracle working power is flowing through me now, woven naturally into the fabric of your daily activities. They are not formal meditations or structured sessions, but simple moments of reorientation, tiny spiritual adjustments that keep the compass of your mind pointed steadily toward the reality of the miracle. Just as a steady trickle of water can carve through stone over time, these micro-thoughts keep your subconscious saturated with the vibration of faith, making it impossible for old patterns of doubt to regain control. Think of the day as a series of small threshold transition points when you are moving from one activity to another, standing in line at the grocery store, waiting for a meeting to begin, walking from one room to another, pausing in traffic at a red light. In each of these moments, instead of letting the mind drift into idle worry or distraction, you quietly repeat the God thought. No one needs to know you are doing it. It can be whispered under your breath, spoken silently in your mind, or even written briefly on a notepad. Each time you do, you are watering the seed, strengthening the roots, and reaffirming to your subconscious, this is who I am, this is what is true, this is what I expect. The beauty of these micro-miracle thoughts is that they require no extra time carved out of your schedule. You are reclaiming the hidden minutes that might otherwise be spent reinforcing worry, resentment, or the mental clutter of meaningless thoughts. Over the course of a single day, these small repetitions can add up to dozens, even hundreds of reinforcements. The subconscious thrives on this kind of steady, rhythmic input. It learns by repetition. And the more often it hears the same thought delivered with even a spark of genuine feeling, the more quickly it adopts it as reality. There is also a subtle psychological shift that occurs when you practice micro-miracle thoughts. You begin to notice how often your mind wants to wander into negativity or limitation, and instead of indulging that drift, you replace it with the God thought. This act of gentle redirection builds mental discipline without strain. It is a soft but firm refusal to give your attention to anything that contradicts the truth you are establishing. Over time, this becomes second nature, and the God thought begins to rise spontaneously even without conscious prompting. By the time you reach your evening ritual, your subconscious has been primed all day long, receiving the same consistent message from morning until night. The God thought is no longer a practice you do, but a state of mind you live in. And it is in this constancy, this seamless integration into the flow of your life, that the true reprogramming takes place. The seed is not merely planted, it is kept alive and nourished without interruption, allowing it to grow into a strong, unshakable reality. Affirmation to carry forward. At every pause, in every moment, I affirm the flow of God's miracle, working power, and my life aligns with its truth. One of the most insidious ways people undermine the work of reprogramming their subconscious for miracles is by feeding it contradictory programming statements, thoughts, and conversations that quietly undo the progress made in prayer, affirmation, and visualization. You cannot plant a seed of divine possibility in the evening and then spend the next day trampling it underfoot with words of limitation, gossip steeped in negativity, or mental rehearsals of failure. The subconscious is impartial. It will act on the dominant impression it receives, whether that impression is born of faith or fear. And when faith and fear are fed in equal measure, the result is stagnation, as though two opposing tides were endlessly colliding within you, producing no forward motion. Consider this. If you speak the God, thought God's miracle, working power is flowing through me now with conviction before bed, but the next morning you find yourself telling a friend, I just don't see how anything's going to change. You have sent two entirely different sets of instructions to the same obedient servant. The subconscious will not choose the more inspiring message. It will take both into account and produce a reality that reflects the conflict between them. This is why some people feel as though they are walking in circles, some step forward in faith, one step back in doubt. The inner blueprint remains incomplete because it keeps being redrawn. To avoid this, you must cultivate what I call a sacred selectiveness in speech and thought. This does not mean pretending that challenges do not exist. It means refusing to give them the dignity of repeated emotionally charged attention. When others invite you into conversations that dwell on lack, failure, or fear, you can gracefully pivot or remain silent, holding your inner focus on the truth you are establishing. You become a guardian of your own mental atmosphere, much as a gardener keeps watch over a tender seedling, protecting it from pests and weeds until it is strong enough to thrive on its own. A practical approach is to adopt a small set of truth statements that you can substitute for any negative impulse. If someone asks how you are doing, and the temptation is to list your difficulties, instead affirm, I am moving in the flow of God's goodness, or each day I see more evidence of divine power in my life. These are not evasions. They are reassertions of the reality you are choosing to create. And the more you choose such responses, the more your subconscious receives a unified, consistent message, and the faster it goes to work to bring it into being. Think of your subconscious as an architect's drafting table. If the design keeps changing, walls move one day, remove the next, the building can never be completed. But if the plan is clear and unaltered, the structure will rise without delay. Your words, thoughts, and mental images are that plan. Consistency is the master key. Every affirmation, every visualization, every micro-miracle thought must align, pointing in the same direction. When they do, the subconscious moves with unstoppable momentum, and the miracle manifests as the only logical conclusion to the instructions it has received. Affirmation to carry forward. I give my subconscious one clear set of instructions, and every word I speak supports the miracle I am creating. There is a subtle yet powerful way to deepen the impact of the God thought bee, allowing it to ride upon waves of sound or to be carried in the stillness of sacred silence. Both sound and silence possess unique properties that influence the subconscious mind. Sound, when chosen wisely, can lull the conscious mind into receptivity, much like the gentle rocking of a boat calms the body and opens the senses. Silence, on the other hand, can magnify the resonance of a thought by removing every competing vibration, leaving only the pure tone of your intention. In the hands of one who understands their use, these two mediums become amplifiers for the message you wish to plant in the deepest soil of your being. When using sound, select something that will harmonize with the God thought rather than distract from it. Soft instrumental music, ambient tones, or nature sounds like rainfall, ocean waves, or a slow breeze moving through leaves can create an atmosphere in which the conscious mind relaxes its grip and the subconscious listens more attentively. The rhythm of the music or the steady repetition of a natural sound provides a gentle undercurrent, carrying the God thought deeper with each repetition. As you whisper, God's miracle working power is flowing through me now. Imagine those words weaving themselves into the fabric of the sound, becoming part of its vibration. You might also experiment with recording your own voice, speaking the God thought slowly and deliberately, layering it over a background of soft music or soothing nature sounds. Then, play this recording quietly as you drift to sleep. The combination of your own voice imbued with faith and calm and a tranquil soundscape can create a powerful bridge to the subconscious, ensuring that the final impressions before sleep are those of certainty, peace, and expectancy. Over time, the subconscious will begin to associate those specific sounds with the God thought itself, creating a conditioned response, where simply hearing the music or nature sounds brings the affirmation to mind and reactivates its emotional charge. Conversely, there are times when the most powerful carrier of the God thought is silence. In true silence, every word you speak to yourself seems to expand and echo, filling the inner space with greater potency. Silence strips away distraction, forcing the mind to attend wholly to the affirmation. In such moments, the God thought is not just spoken, it is heard inwardly with a kind of sacred clarity. This is why periods of quiet meditation are so effective for subconscious reprogramming. They create a receptive mental environment in which a single phrase can resound like a bell in an empty hall, its vibrations reaching the farthest corners of your inner life. Whether through sound or silence, the principle is the same. Create a mental and sensory environment that supports the full reception of your chosen thought. When the God thought is wrapped in a soundscape that calms the conscious mind or presented in a silence that sharpens its impact, it finds its way into the subconscious more swiftly and deeply. And once there, it continues its work unceasingly, like a song that lingers long after the music has stopped. Affirmation to carry forward. Whether carried on waves of sound or resting in sacred silence, my God, thought enters the depths of my being and shapes my reality. Once you have spoken the God thought with intention, felt it with the fullness of emotion, paired it with your breath, and anchored it in vivid imagery, there remains one final act to complete the transmission to your subconscious, sealing the envelope. This is the sacred moment when you release the thought entirely, surrendering it to the infinite with absolute trust that the work is already in progress. Too many people sabotage the creative process by planting a seed and then, out of impatience, digging it up to see if it has sprouted. They pray, affirm, and visualize, but then undo their work by wondering whether it took, by checking for visible results before the invisible roots have formed. Sealing the envelope ends this cycle by closing the mental container around your intention, signaling to your subconscious that the instruction is final and not to be altered. To perform this act, imagine your God thought as a beautifully written letter, penned with care, and signed with the authority of divine truth. See yourself placing this letter inside an envelope made of radiant light, sealing it with a touch that infuses it with gratitude and certainty. Address it in your mind's eye to the infinite healing and creative presence within you. Then visualize placing it into a gleaming golden mailbox or handing it directly to a trusted messenger of light, knowing beyond doubt that it will be delivered and acted upon without delay. The moment you release it, you turn your attention away. Just as you would after mailing an important letter, you do not hover at the postbox to watch it travel. You rest in the knowledge that it will arrive at its destination. This act of mental release accomplishes two crucial things. First, it removes the restless interference of the conscious mind, which, if unchecked, will continually poke and prod at the process with questions, doubts, and unnecessary adjustments. Second, it places the matter squarely into the realm where miracles are formed, the subconscious mind aligned with infinite intelligence, where it can be acted upon without resistance. You move from the role of controller to the role of co-creator, allowing the law of mind to operate freely. From this point forward, every time the thought of your desire arises, you need not replay the entire process. Instead, you can simply recall the image of the sealed envelope in the golden mailbox. This instantly reaffirms your trust in the process and keeps the mental channel free from contradiction. It is a reminder that your part is to plant and water the seed. The unfolding of the miracle is the work of the unseen. By sealing the envelope, you declare to yourself and to the infinite that you are finished with the asking and have entered into the state of receiving. It is the final gesture of faith, the quiet closing of the door on doubt, and the opening of the door to manifestation. In that stillness, the subconscious begins its tireless work, weaving the miracle into the fabric of your life until the moment comes when it stands before you as tangible and undeniable as the ground beneath your feet. Affirmation to carry forward. I release my God. Thought to the infinite, knowing it is received, acted upon, and fulfilled in perfect order. Now that the God thought has been planted, charged, breathed, visualized, and sealed, we bring it fully to life in what I call the living miracle scene. This is not a passive imagining, not a hazy daydream you visit occasionally, but a daily immersion into the reality of your miracle as though it were unfolding right now. It is a deliberate act of stepping into the world your God thought has created, walking its streets, touching its textures, and breathing its air. The subconscious mind responds to this as it would to actual experience, because to the subconscious, vividly imagined experience is actual experience. When you live inside your miracle scene each day, you are teaching your inner mind to accept it as the baseline truth of your life. To create this scene, begin by choosing a specific moment that represents the full manifestation of your desire. It should be the kind of moment that, if it were happening now, would leave no doubt that the miracle had arrived. For example, if your miracle involves perfect health, perhaps you see yourself hiking to the top of a hill at sunrise, your lungs filling effortlessly with cool morning air, your body strong and light beneath you. If your miracle is financial freedom, perhaps you are seated at your desk, reviewing an account statement that confirms you are not only debt-free but abundantly supplied, your heart swelling with gratitude. The key is to choose a moment that encapsulates the result, not the process, so that in the scene you are already living in the fulfilled state. Once you have the scene, enter it with your whole being. See the colors around you, as vivid and rich as if you were standing there. Hear the ambient sounds, birds calling at dawn, the laughter of friends, the gentle hum of a quiet home at peace. Feel the physical sensation, sunlight warming your face, the softness of the chair beneath you, the handshake of someone congratulating you. Smell the scents in the air, fresh earth, brewed coffee, the salt of the ocean. The more fully you engage your senses, the more real the scene becomes to your subconscious. Now, while dwelling in this scene, let the God thought rise naturally. God's miracle working power is flowing through me now. Each time you repeat it, feel the truth of it saturating the scene, making it brighter, fuller, more alive. Imagine that with every repetition, the scene gains weight and solidity, as though you could reach out and touch every object, every detail. Allow your emotions to swell: gratitude, joy, peace, wonder, until they overflow, for it is this emotional charge that imprints the scene most deeply into your subconscious. Spend several minutes in this state each day, ideally in the quiet of the morning or the stillness of the evening, when your mind is most receptive. Over time, the living miracle scene will become so familiar that it will feel like a cherished memory, something you have lived many times before. And in truth, you have lived it within the inner realm where all creation begins. When the outer manifestation comes, it will feel less like a surprise and more like a homecoming, for your mind will recognize it instantly as the reality it has been rehearsing all along. Affirmation to carry forward. I live each day within my miracle. and my subconscious accepts it as the only truth. The living miracle scene gains its full transformative power when it is repeated in cycles, what I call the looping for saturation technique. Just as a master painter layers stroke upon stroke until the canvas glows with depth and richness, you return to your scene again and again in a single sitting, each time deepening the colors, sharpening the details, and magnifying the feelings. The subconscious is impressed most strongly by repeated exposure to the same image charged with emotion. Each loop of your scene reinforces the neural and spiritual imprint, making it increasingly impossible for your inner mind to distinguish between what is imagined and what is physically experienced. To practice this, first enter your living miracle scene as you normally would. Breathe slowly, quiet your thoughts, and step fully into the chosen moment of your fulfilled desire. Engage all your sensesites, sound, touch, taste, and smell until the scene feels vivid and immersive. Allow yourself to dwell there for a minute or two, letting the emotions swell naturally. Then gently let the scene fade, like the curtain closing at the end of an act. Pause for a breath or two in stillness, holding the feeling but releasing the image. After this pause, bring the scene back again, but this time, notice something you missed before. Perhaps the light has shifted in the room, or the air feels warmer, or there's a subtle new sound in the background. These additions make the experience more real and give your subconscious fresh detail to work with. Stay in the scene for another minute or two, repeating your God thought. God's miracle, working power, is flowing through me now, and letting each repetition amplify the reality of what you are seeing and feeling. Repeat this loop 3, 4, or even 5 times in one session, always letting the scene fade and then return, each time with a slightly deeper emotional connection and a richer sensory texture. By the 3rd or 4th loop, you may find that you have lost all sense of effort, that the scene simply rises of its own accord, carrying you into it as if you were stepping through a familiar doorway. This is the point where the subconscious begins to take ownership of the vision, adopting it as a reality it must express. The beauty of the looping for saturation technique is that it mirrors the way the subconscious naturally learns. Just as a song heard repeatedly becomes embedded in your mind until you can recall it effortlessly, so your repeated loops of the miracle scene become imprinted until they arise spontaneously during the day. You might be walking down the street or sitting quietly at work when the scene flashes before you unbidden, complete with its feelings of joy and certainty. That is a sure sign that the subconscious has accepted it as truth and is actively working to bring it into your lived experience. When practiced consistently, looping transforms your miracle scene from a mental exercise into a living reality, first within, then without. The outer manifestation becomes the natural extension of the inner repetition, just as the harvest is the natural outcome of planting the same seed in rich soil again and again. Affirmation to carry forward. Each time I return to my miracle scene, it grows more real, and my subconscious works tirelessly to make it visible. Now we come to the moment of integration, the nightly miracle benediction, the sacred closing of your day in which all the elements of this practice merge into a single unbroken stream of thought, feeling, imagery, and surrender. This is the culmination of the day's inner work, the point where you stop striving, stop asking, and begin resting fully in the certainty that your miracle is already complete in the unseen. Just as the benediction at the end of a service seals the message and sends the congregation forth in peace, this nightly ritual seals the God thought into your subconscious and sends it into the fertile silence of sleep, where it will continue its work without your conscious interference. Begin by lying comfortably in bed, the lights dimmed or extinguished, the outer world fading into quiet. Place one hand over your heart, the other gently resting at your side, and take a slow, deep breath. As you inhale, whisper within yourself, God's miracle, working power. And as you exhale, complete it, is flowing through me now. Allow this rhythm to settle you, each breath deepening your calm and drawing you inward toward that sacred space where the conscious and subconscious meet. Once your breath is steady and your body relaxed, bring to mind your living miracle scene. Step into it fully, just as you have practiced, engaging every sense and letting the emotions rise naturally. As you dwell in the scene, keep the God thought moving with your breath, as if each inhalation draws more of God's life into the vision, and each exhalation sends that life flowing outward into every part of your being. Feel the gratitude swelling not because you are asking for the miracle, but because you know it is already yours in the invisible realm, and therefore must, by the unfailing law of mind, appear in your outer life. When the feeling of gratitude has reached its peak, shift into the act of sealing the envelope. See your God thought, your scene, and your emotions gathered together into a single radiant package of light. Imagine placing it into the hands of the infinite, the source that cannot fail. In this moment, release all attachment to how or when the miracle will appear. You have done your part. The rest belongs to the law that governs all creation. Rest in that assurance as you allow the image to fade, carrying only the feeling with you into the depths of sleep. If stray thoughts try to intrude, return to the God thought on the breath, using it as the lullaby that rocks you into unconsciousness. Let it be the last word you hear in your mind, the final vibration impressed upon your subconscious before the night's work begins. For during sleep, the conscious mind's interference is suspended, and the subconscious moves without hindrance, shaping your inner decree into the beginnings of outer form. With practice, the nightly miracle benediction becomes more than a ritual. It becomes a state of beinga, peaceful expectancy that follows you from the evening into the morning. You wake not in doubt or impatience, but in quiet confidence, knowing that the creative machinery has been turning all night, and that each day brings you closer to the full unveiling of what has already been accomplished in spirit. Affirmation to carry forward. I rest in the certainty of my miracle, sealed in the law of God, and I sleep in perfect peace. The final step in this journey is the 21-day miracle covenant, a sacred agreement you make with yourself and with the infinite to hold unwaveringly to the God thought for 3 full weeks, morning and night, without lapse or contradiction. 21 days is not an arbitrary length of time. It is a natural cycle of mental conditioning, long enough to establish a new dominant pattern in the subconscious and short enough to feel immediately attainable. In these 3 weeks, you will be sowing the same seed again and again, watering it with emotion, sunlighting it with visualization, and guarding it from the weeds of doubt or negativity. By the end of the covenant, the God thought will no longer feel like a practice you are trying out, but like the natural climate of your inner life. To enter the covenant, make a clear and deliberate declaration, spoken aloud if possible. For the next 21 days, I will affirm without wavering, God's miracle-working power is flowing through me now. I will speak it each morning before I rise and each night before I sleep. I will pair it with feeling, breath, and vision, and I will refuse any thought, word, or image that contradicts it. I commit this in faith, knowing that the law of mind cannot fail me. You may write this declaration on paper, sign and date it, and place it somewhere visible, perhaps beside your bed or on your desk, so that it stands as a constant reminder of the vow you have made. During the covenant, treat the God thought as sacred property. Speak it with reverence, as though you were uttering a line of scripture. If you falter, if a day passes without the practice, do not sink into guilt. Simply renew the covenant and continue. What matters is not flawless performance, but persistent, wholehearted return to the thought until it becomes second nature. And because you have been given the tools emotional charging, breath synchronization, visualization, looping, and sealing you are equipped to keep the practice fresh and powerful each day. As the days unfold, begin to take note of subtle shifts, an ease in situations that once felt tense, a solution arriving to a problem you had set aside, a lightness in your body or mind that you cannot explain. These are the early blossoms of your miracle, the quiet evidence that your subconscious has received the instruction and is moving in harmony with infinite intelligence to fulfill it. Resist the urge to demand that the full harvest appear instantly. Instead, let these small signs deepen your faith and reinforce your commitment. By the 21st day, you will find that the God thought lives in you without prompting. It will rise in the pause between tasks, in the silence before a conversation, in the moments when you would once have turned to worry or complaint. This is the sign that your subconscious has been reprogrammed and not merely persuaded for a moment, but retrained at its core to operate from the reality of miracles as the norm. And from here, the practice does not end. It becomes the steady hum beneath all your days, the background music of your life, drawing blessings to you with an ease that feels both wondrous and entirely natural. Final affirmation: I am faithful to my covenant, and my covenant is faithful to me. God's miracle, working power flows through me now, and my life is its living proof.